Tickety tick tock.
Podcast. Great. That'll go down well with the woke mob. It is Deadpool and Wolverine. It's the biggest, most annoying blockbuster of the summer. I'm here with Shane to discuss Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds. It's Boy Party. Let's go. I wouldn't say let's fucking go. I wouldn't say that's too stupid, annoying.
Get out of here.
Tagline of the film. So, folks, there was an introduction to this film, a little video recorded by Mr. Jackman and Mr. Reynolds, and they were giving the vibe of Dublin morning radio hosts called, like, you know, Tobby and Nobby, like really the same exact
DJ
energy.
Silly Billy.
DJ Silly Billy and DJ Cheeky Chappy over here.
Yeah.
Like, there was, it probably helps that we were in a room with a lot of those guys, those Irish radio presenter annoying men were in the room with us, and I've just seen a few of them to trigger that moment of recognition. But I just was like, God, these guys are so unfunny and annoying. And then the film began. Deadpool and Wolverine.
Yeah.
My name's Lucian, and I'm joined by Shane, the
Good evening.
alternate reality version of my favorite superhero who I rescued from purgatory. And
Yeah, I died in real life. And
You did die.
This is just your
this is
memory.
Yes, memory. This is a podcast about movies where two major stars, or in some cases, comic book heroes, share the screen and battle it out for whose name goes first in the title, who's punching who on the poster, and I don't know, other things specific to this genre. It is Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman, Deadpool and Wolverine, the second time that these two have starred in a Wolverine and Deadpool film, the previous being 2009's X-Men Origins Wolverine, in which Ryan Reynolds plays a sort of supporting / villainous role, much maligned performance and a depiction of that character so widely disliked by comic book fans that it spawned an entire trilogy of Deadpool films
Just as an apology.
Yeah. I would personally argue that film is better than any of these. Maybe not better, but certainly more earnest in its intentions and less contempt for the audience being demonstrated. But
Yeah, you're getting a very special episode this evening because we are just out of the cinema.
yeah, this is one of our new release instant reaction.
Let's bump the numbers.
We're
selling it. We're selling out.
We're selling out as much as Hugh Jackman is selling out by returning to this role. Now, folks, hit my head very hard today, and it is perhaps due to hitting my head very hard on a very low doorway in my office building that I thought that this film was somewhat tolerable.
I'm just a bit thick in general, so I was like, kind of agree without even hitting my head.
You're the stupid idiots that this is aimed at.
Yes,
It's funny that
absolutely.
we're coming into this with a positive energy about a film that neither of us is giving more than
No,
2 stars.
my expectations were like, this is going to be a crime against cinema.
Yeah.
So when you're starting from there, it takes very little for it to be kind of like okay.
Yeah, like it's kind of by default. It's just operating in the context of such rubbish between the two previous Deadpool films and the last 5, 6, or 7 Marvel Studios films.
But it didn't disappoint me in any ways that I didn't expect going into, and
Yes.
it probably
It delivered.
it delivered in areas that I didn't expect it to.
Sure. It's probably the best Marvel Studios film of the last 3 years, which is ridiculous that's that easy. That's such a low bar to clear. But it just is by virtue of having like a couple of silly things that I had fun with.
Yeah, and it seems to be going back to the level of star power they had a couple of years ago.
Sure. It does rely a lot on the star power of, I'd say, mostly Hugh Jackman, who kind of comes into the film with a great amount of presence. He's not exactly giving a good performance, because I'm not sure Hugh Jackman has ever given a good performance, but he's certainly like, he's kind of throwing his weight around in a way that feels like, oh, I haven't seen this in a little while.
There were a few little moments in this where he's like English actor guy that screams in all his scenes.
Yes.
When he had the big red eyes and he's just kind of crying and he's
this
drunk.
This is the guy, folks, on TikTok who's like, you know, the astronaut is about to die in space. And
Policeman finds dead girl in the woods or whatever.
He's always got his snotty nose and like.
Yes, he is right.
That's a man.
Hugh Jackman's doing some snotty nose.
That's a man for whom Deadpool and Wolverine is his favorite movie of the year, like
potentially
for sure. But anyway, so Shane's obviously kind of not got as much of a relationship with Marvel.
I just have a general dislike of Ryan Reynolds.
Shane sees one in every 14 Marvel movies, I'd say.
There needs to be a reason for me to go.
You've seen Ant-Man and the Wasp.
No, just Ant-Man.
You've seen Ant-Man. You've seen Avengers Endgame.
Yeah.
You've seen Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness.
Yes.
You've seen the first Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
And you've seen the Marvels on TV while you were cooking dinner.
A little bit.
And is that
No, I've seen No Way Home.
Oh, you've seen No Way Home, yeah.
No Way Home was like the low point for me.
That's the last one I think that's a bit better than this. They're doing similar things. That just doesn't have Ryan Reynolds in it, so it's instantly more.
I disagree.
Really?
Yeah, I think
maybe you don't react as much to Ryan Reynolds as I do.
I do. I thought I did.
I just think that the shtick he's doing in these films is deplorably unfunny. Like, it's so fucking tiresome. He's like doing this sort of like, it's like a 2004 metrosexual idea of masculinity.
Yeah.
Where now the character of Deadpool is canonically supposed to be a queer man.
Yeah.
Who is pansexual, yada yada. They do nothing with that.
No, because he has no relationship with anyone at all.
There is, yeah, exactly.
He has a bit of a girlfriend, which is like, okay, we're just affirming that.
There's the Marina Baccarin girlfriend from the first two films.
Yeah.
And it comes back a little bit in this. But like, if you're going to announce that the character is supposedly someone who has sexual involvement with men, just as a fucking excuse to have him constantly make these kind of gay panicky jibes at other men, you cannot then never depict him as being queer in any other way and just have him as very straight down the middle. Like, the biggest issue with this film is just every joke is about dicks and balls.
What if a man receiving anal was the funniest thing in the world?
And pegging and fucking, what else does he go on about constantly? Every violent threat he makes, and he's constantly because he's always just gunning and shooting and stabbing people. Every threat of violence he makes is themed around like getting fucked and this is gonna go in your ass, and it's all just like gross. And I'm so not like I don't get put off by sexual humor in films instinctively, but the way that everything is so aggressively sexualized in these films is so deeply unpleasant.
Yeah, because it's like, oh, look at this thing. This thing is weird, and you should feel weird about doing it. This isn't normal. Like,
it's like, Ryan Reynolds is the most pedestrian straight man who's ever lived.
Because these jokes don't work in a heterosexual context.
No. These jokes only work if you think it's really weird and funny. And just knowing that Deadpool is a character that primarily appeals to 16 to 20-year-old virgin boys, you're like, well, I think that the humor in this is intended for them to laugh at the ideas of homosexual living, you know?
Yes, it's very much laughing at it.
Yeah,
like,
these films are not for or by gay people. So there's nothing in it where I think there are obviously gay people who like these films, and that's fine. And this is just our thoughts on it. But like, it does feel to me as though it's a very like laughing at, not laughing with the ideas of alternative sexual behaviors in general. Hugh Jackman doesn't really lean into that at all with his appearance in this film. Like, he has no interest. Interesting, because of course Hugh Jackman is someone who is often speculated to be a closeted gay man. That's
why he doesn't engage with it.
Yeah, he has no interest in that stuff. I feel like every scene where Deadpool is like, hey, miss, what did you just spill over the floor?
I didn't spill anything.
Pasta. A little bit of dry pasta.
A single piece of
penne
pasta.
Look at this piece of pasta. Now, if Deadpool was here right now...
He'd be like, more like penis pasta.
He'd be like, penis pasta.
Put that in my ass, please.
Yeah, exactly. And the audience would go, take my money. Take all my money. Please take all my money. The plot of Deadpool and Wolverine, sir. Please explain the plot. I'll give you money if you do so.
There is a contraption, and
the gizmo.
The contraption will destroy the world because of time.
Sure. Matthew McFadden's there.
Matthew McFadden is Mr. Paradox.
Hey, Deadpool.
Hey, Deadpool.
I wish he did his Tom voice. Hey, buddy. Hey, Deadpool. You want to get a finger up the ass, Deadpool? He should have done that.
Yeah.
Anyway.
He kind of tries to get into it a little bit.
He tries, but he's just
it's
He's like, Deadpool, we need you to do this. We need you to hop over to the fucking
Deadpool, I'm giving you an opportunity to be whatever. No, there's no plot to
The
this.
premise is just that Deadpool's in the 20th Century Fox fucking Marvel universe, and he's got to get over to somewhere else. I actually don't know what was going on. I couldn't follow it.
No, it's completely irrelevant.
Anyway,
it doesn't matter.
Basically, Wolverine died in Logan, so
there's no stakes in this at all.
No. So
it's also very weird to have two characters that like can't die.
Yeah, no, it's really silly.
And base a lot of action scenes around them just like kind of
slicing and shooting each other infinitely.
And then they just get tired and fall asleep.
There's like 4 fight scenes in this film that are just the two of them going at it for 5 minutes. Largely that are prefaced by Deadpool saying stuff like, nerds, you're going to want to grab your hankies right now, or something. Like, there's just a lot of like,
this is going to be amazing.
A lot of like, this is going to be amazing, and this is for you, a nerd, to jerk off to, is kind of how they preface a lot of this. And like, sure, I am aware that Deadpool and Wolverine are an iconic comic duo that have never been put on the screen like this. I saw Deadpool. I read a Deadpool and Wolverine comic when I was a child in the bookshop. They are often depicted as a duo in comics. And somehow we've gone 25 years into Wolverine being in films without Deadpool and Wolverine as a duo. So I get that there is a certain like, finally, the moment has come for people who are into this kind of thing. But as you say, those fights have no stakes to them because all they're doing is just stab, 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 and then no one can die, no one can get hurt. It's not really played for laughs because they're trying too hard to like make it like a big hype moment for dorks. So it ends up just feeling absolutely nothing and goes nowhere.
Yeah, it's like, whatever, it's window dressing nonsense for selling posters, probably.
Yeah, exactly. And then you've got, basically, they end up in this kind of purgatory space. So the Wolverine in this film is not the Wolverine that we saw in Logan. It is a alternate fucking
reality
multiverse version of him.
Again, no one cares.
Yeah, this is the shit they do now to bring every actor they want back.
And it seems like they've just gotten incredibly sloppy with the whole multiverse.
Yes.
They don't give a shit anymore. They just kind of say, "Oh, other universe, bring them in. Who cares?"
There's literally a scene in this film where they start talking about how the multiverse stuff isn't working out for them.
Yeah,
and they're like, "We shouldn't do this in the movies anymore." And I'm like, "Is that how you feel about it?" Like, it is interesting because obviously, like, they start off the films talking about how like Kevin Feige said we can't do coke in the film and all this.
Yeah,
and I'm like, well, if you're acknowledging Kevin Feige's input, even in a jokey way. Is Kevin Feige using this film to sort of subtly get across some of his opinions?
This is his shareholder briefing.
Because literally they say in this film, they say you're joining the MCU at a low point.
Yeah.
They say we got to stop doing the fucking multiverse shit. Like they seem to be acknowledging all of the issues that people like me have with the movies while also doubling down on, there's no plot. This is just stuff for you to kind of like, this is just,
yeah, like I don't know how
nostalgia porn.
I don't know how sincerely you can take these kind of like satires of the industry it's in when it's coming from within the house.
Yeah, you can't.
I think this was kind of an issue we had with Barbie a little bit as well, where it's
definitely with Barbie, where it's like you cannot be a satire of the thing that you are profiting off of.
You are the thing.
You are the thing.
Yeah.
The worst case of this for me, which is a film I really dislike, is The Matrix Resurrections.
Okay.
Which came out a couple of years ago, in which the film begins with Keanu Reeves being brought into a meeting where they're like, Warner Brothers wants to make a new Matrix. And he's like, I don't want to do it. And they're like, we're either going to do it with you or without you. So what do you fucking want to do? And that entire film...
you're there.
That entire film is the directors, or just Lana Wachowski being like, well, I didn't want to fucking do this.
But you did.
They were going to do it without me. So, hey, I got your money. And it's like, I got your money. And it's like, you have my money. Fuck you. You took my money. Give it back. It's that whole thing of like, you and me maybe didn't actually pay any money to see Deadpool and Wolverine, so we're not the best people to talk on this. But if you take my money for my ticket, do not then call me stupid 10 minutes later for going to see the movie. I don't think that this...
Sorry, if you're paying to go see Deadpool and Wolverine, you enjoy being called stupid.
Sure. I also, because you like to be fucking trampled on by Deadpool while he makes dick and balls jokes.
Yeah.
I don't think Deadpool and Wolverine is actually the most egregious example of that by any means. I think that the previous Deadpool films are worse, because I think that all the time in the previous Deadpool films that's spent with Deadpool being like, I'm in a movie. This is a movie you're watching. Where's the third act reveal? A lot of that in this film gets kind of thrown out in because you have to do all the like, you like Wolverine, remember Wolverine, all that bullshit.
You have to bring in some element of like sincerity and traditional like plot to build some sort of emotional climax.
And you end up with like scenes that I thought were decently done, like the girl from Logan, Daphne Keane, like having a sincere conversation with Wolverine for 2 minutes where she's like, you're not a terrible person, you saved me and the other kids. And it's like, oh, whatever. Logan is a bad film. It's actually not even that much better than Deadpool and Wolverine in my opinion. But like, I was like, she's a good actress. She's trying her best. And at least this film is allowing a good actress a moment to try their best, whereas the previous Deadpool films are just like,
they'd shit on it immediately.
They'd shit on it immediately. You're never allowed to have a note of sincerity. And that is a lot down to this film's director and co-writer, Mr. Sean Levy, a favorite of ours. We've discussed this man on our podcasts many a time. He has, I think I'm a Sean Levy completist. And he belongs in a very rare category for me of 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 directors.
Yeah.
Now, there's only 3 I can think of right now who belong in this category. Those directors are Sean Levy, Peter Jackson, and John Carney. These are directors where I have given one of their films 5 stars, one of their films 4 stars, 3 stars, 2 stars, and one of their films a 1-star review.
Is Terrence Malick not in there for some reason?
Ooh, Terrence Malick might be in there too. Were
we depending on like The Tree of Life or something? There was some.
Yeah, Song to Song is a 1-star.
Okay.
And Badlands is a 5. And I'd figure out the rest of them. In Sean Levy's case, 5 stars for Big Fat Liar.
Yep.
4 stars for The First Night at the Museum. Mm-hmm. Then we got 3 stars for
probably the bulk of his
Night at the
work.
Museum 2, Night at the Museum 3, Date Night. This is Where I Leave You. Those are all 3 stars.
Yeah.
Then we got 2 stars for The Pink Panther, for Real Steel, for The Atom Project, for Deadpool and Wolverine. Mm-hmm. And then we got 1 star for a little film called The Internship, The Internship, more of a half-star film. That is a 90-minute ad for Google, and it is deeply evil in its heart. But yeah, I'm looking at this. The only Levy film I haven't seen is Free Guy.
Oh, yes.
Which I will never watch. Now, Sean Levy, I do have some affection for him. I think he is a somewhat talented guy to make mid-level family blockbusters. I don't think that this is the best use of his talent, because I think that this film is too not beholden to comic book bullshit, where he would be better off directing like just like a fresh original comedy where he can come up with some visual stuff.
Sure, but I don't think he inserts himself in too much where he like derails this from what it is. Like he's happy to kind of let it run away with its own kind of stupidity.
Yeah, I think so.
Which is nearly the best case scenario for one of these, where it's not trying to be something better than it is.
True, and he may very well have been the best person to direct this, and I think he's definitely done a better job than either of the previous.
Yeah, these films aren't worth wasting good directors on.
No, like Sean Levy is as good of a director as I'd be willing to let to do a Marvel movie before I'd get pissed off. Like when it's Sam Raimi or one of these indie directors that I like, I get annoyed. Whereas Sean Levy is like, well, look, Sean Levy's going to be making this. He's going to be making this. He's going to be making some Netflix bullshit with Ryan Reynolds. It may as well be this. This film has fucking 5 credited writers, which is too many. That's a problem. That's a real problem.
And like, how much of this is just fucking Ryan Reynolds?
Yeah, well, Ryan Reynolds is the first credited writer. Ryan Reynolds, Rhett Reese, Paul Wernick, Zeb Wells, and Sean Levy. And I'd say there's 30 other people who did a pass on it. Yeah. I'd say you could find out that fucking Pete Davidson or some shit did a pass on this film. Guys like that always get handed this, and they throw a few jokes in there. I'd say all the Ryan Reynolds stuff was improvised or was come up with by him. I'd say all the Hugh Jackman stuff was written by a real screenwriter, because not that it's necessarily interesting or intelligent or good or anything, but it feels true to the character from the previous X-Men films.
I'm surprised they didn't just fucking throw in a musical number just for the sake of it.
Oh, that would have been better. That would have been too much, too many. That would have been too big of an idea. Yeah. So like the visual look of the middle act of this film is just Mad Max with the color stripped out, and they say it straight away. They go, "Oh, this is like Mad Max."
They do a Furiosa speech,
and then they stick with it. And I'm like, why did you just copy Mad Max? I don't get it. They go to this purgatory, and there's Mad Max.
Yeah, it's just a weird desert.
I
guess it was just a cheap set to make.
Yeah. We'll do a spoiler alert now. Spoiler warning. We'll talk about some of the people who pop up in this film very briefly. Yeah. Chris Evans pops up in this film. You think he's Captain America. I didn't, because he looked nothing like Steve Rogers. He had stubble and just looked totally different. And then I was like, what's going on here? And after 10 seconds, it's revealed he's actually playing Human Torch from Fantastic Four, which I thought was a lot of fun.
Which, yeah, I enjoyed that.
But then he was in it a little bit too much. Where I was like, oh, do you not have... He was in it for like 10 minutes. And I was like, do you not have anything better to be doing?
Chris Evans is someone who just seems to have a little bit too much fondness for Ryan Reynolds and wants to get in on the bit.
He wants to get on the bit, and he wants to become a version of Ryan Reynolds. He wants to make Ryan Reynolds movies himself as well. Yeah,
which he shouldn't.
He shouldn't.
Because nobody should.
No one should. Then Henry Cavill shows up. There's like a montage of Deadpool going to meet different Wolverines from different universes, and you're thinking, oh, one of these guys is going to be played by like a different actor who isn't Hugh Jackman. And Henry Cavill shows up, and there's a joke about how DC have treated him poorly. Like, I didn't get any glee out of seeing Henry Cavill show up in this.
I didn't know it was Henry Cavill because I found the scene
recognize
to be very poorly lit.
Yes, they didn't say his name.
I heard somebody say it.
They said you're the cavalry or something.
Yeah, I heard them say it, and I was like, and then I started squinting, and I was like, oh, they didn't give a great shot of his face. Whatever.
True. Then there's a kind of a trio of characters who show up halfway through, which I had a great time with, which is Jennifer Garner as Elektra, and Wesley Snipes as Blade, and Channing Tatum as Gambit.
Yes,
who has never appeared in a film. This is a project that was a real mid 2010s movie news bullshit project that I was very invested in for no reason. It was never going to be good. And it went through so many directors. I'm trying to think. Gore Verbinski was attached to it. Like all these different people. Tatum was going to direct it himself at one point. It was fascinating. And it never got made. And it died with the Disney-Fox merger, obviously. But it was just so interesting that I felt like this film was aiming straight at my exact... And I hate to be part of the group of men that these films are aimed at. Because I'm like, no, I'm not one of these nerds. I've never read a Deadpool comic as an adult. I have no interest in these characters in my day-to-day life. But then I'm like, oh man, I spent a lot of time thinking about that Channing Tatum Gambit movie that never got made. Yeah. And now I'm watching him in this film. And you know what? I'm enjoying myself. And Channing Tatum, best performance in the film.
Absolutely.
He shows up doing this insane Cajun accent. He's incoherent. Deadpool stops him at one point and says, what does he say?
Who's your dialect coach?
Who's your dialect coach? And it's very good. I thought Wesley Snipes was alive and functional in this role. I haven't even seen his Blade movies, but I was just glad to see him there. I know he's a terrible person, but I was just like, oh look, is this just like a funny person to have in this? I don't know. Jennifer Garner I knew was going to be in it, so that didn't do much for me.
Wesley Snipes not retired.
No, not retired. And then was there anyone else funny show up? That's kind of it. No, that was it really. Oh, Jon Favreau. I don't care. Jon Favreau showing up was a real they're gonna have better than this later. Like, we don't need to worry too much about Jon Favreau. Yeah. He also looked his face looked like insanely touched up digitally. Like, I think the scene was meant to be set 6 or 7 years ago, so they obviously wanted him to look the age he looked in Spider-Man: Homecoming, but he looked really weird. Anyway, nothing else to say about the film itself, really. I mean, it's not really a real movie. It is more like a sort of a series of skits and moments. That's kind of what you get from Marvel movies. I would say that they're better films in the last 10 years, like Endgame or that as well. If you took Deadpool out, it would be a lot better.
You think so?
Ultimately, that's the problem with it is that I hate the Ryan Reynolds performance and I hate the humor.
I don't know. I think if you take Deadpool out of it, you just get No Way Home, which I despise.
Yeah, see, I don't think No Way Home is fine.
No Way Home has too much ambition that it just flops even more. This is just kind of like...
if you take Deadpool out of it, you get a stupid Wolverine movie that is a little bit more entertaining than Logan, which I cannot stand. Because at least it doesn't have Logan's stupid, fucking pretentious stick up its ass about getting an Oscar nomination, you know?
Look at you on the stick up your ass.
Sorry, I'm talking like Deadpool. This is what exposure to him does. I also felt like this was a little bit didn't outstay its welcome.
Yes.
It could have been shorter, but it wrapped up just before I got completely exhausted.
It did. It dropped the new characters in at the right time.
And the action got better as it went along.
I agree.
The best action in the film is when, Channing Tatum and Wesley Snipes, Jennifer Garner stick around for 20 minutes. Yeah. And they're part of a big... They must have got paid so much to be in this. They're part of a big fight scene with Emma Corrin's character, who is Charles Xavier's sister, and all of these goons that Emma Corrin's character has.
She was kind of poor. Poor character. It was kind of an afterthought of a character. It was
sure. I thought Emma Corrin and Matthew McFadden were operating at the same level.
Sure.
Ye are serviceable. But then I think that the action gets better. I think that scene's pretty good. I would have loved if the film ended after that. Would have been great.
I didn't like that as much as you did. It was fun seeing those people there, but again, it was still...
I thought that the action moved and kept bouncing about between a couple of different spots.
I think when you started getting into Wesley Snipes action, you see the cuts are coming quicker. You're hiding a a lot more.
You're hiding because Wesley Snipes can't fucking move his arms.
You're losing your sense of space a little bit. I have more... I have more time for the kind of the Madonna fight scene where it's
I don't. This is the scene Shane's describing is very Matthew Vaughn, Kingsman kind of single takes from the side of them there's the camera on a rail, it just moves down. I started to find that type of action really exhausting.
Again, I'm not as exposed to it as you are, so I have a slight.
I guess
bit more
Argyle
time for
and
it.
Guardians 3 and stuff have turned me off of it.
Yeah.
The King's Man. But I guess I just feel like the action I enjoy in films is where you're cutting between three things. Unless you're going to do really good Mission Impossible level. Cut between three different things and you'll keep me distracted, which is what Fast and Furious is good at. And that's what this movie did. Where in that scene in the middle. Whereas with the Madonna scene, you are forcing me to engage in acts of violence that I have no interest in watching. Like, I don't want to see people getting shot. I take no pleasure.
I just thought it had a little bit more color to it.
It was colorful.
It was more color to it.
By the virtue of having 100
Yeah,
Deadpools,
and it was just
red.
clearer on the screen. Whereas, like, even in the desert stuff, it's...
Yeah. What do you think about the song choices? I thought they were pretty awful. They
were fine.
I thought the fucking
Goo Goo
Dolls was awful.
Yeah.
I thought the Madonna was well, that was in the trailer.
Credit song was Green Day, Time of Your Life. I have a weird
I think
fondness
the
for that.
Green Day and the Goo Goo Dolls tells you a lot about the target audience of the film. 35 to 45-year-old man.
What else was there?
There was fucking Bye 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 by the Backstreet Boys in this.
Yes, that's the opening credit scene.
The opening credit scene I thought was the worst shit I've ever seen in my entire life.
Really?
I really wasn't into it at all. And I was like, I can't stand Deadpool for 2 hours.
Didn't hate it.
You didn't hate it.
Like,
All
okay,
right.
it's kind of.
Well, that was your first introduction to Deadpool, and now he's your best friend.
He's my best friend.
It's funny you haven't seen the other
More of a
Deadpool
lover
films.
than a friend.
Yeah, you're gonna have to watch the other ones now. You're gonna have
know.
the best weekend of your life. So Eddie Marsan's in one of them. So we'll do our token boy party star discussion for a few minutes.
Yeah.
I've not much to say about Ryan Reynolds other than that I hate him and think he's awful.
It makes trash.
He makes trash. I mean, I just hate his face.
Has he ever done a serious role?
I just remembered something funny. Ryan Reynolds is actually in one of the Blade movies with Wesley Snipes.
Oh, is he?
Completely forgot that.
Oh, that's fine.
He's in Blade Trinity. Directed by David S. Goyer.
How many of them did they make?
Three. A man who I have. Guillermo del Toro did one of them.
Oh.
David S. Goyer, a man.
So he did one of those, and he did a Hellboy.
Yes. Ryan Reynolds did Blade Trinity. He did X-Men Origins Wolverine.
Mm-hmm.
He did Green Lantern, and then he went back and did Deadpool properly.
Yeah.
Too much time spent making these kinds of movies.
Because he doesn't want to make anything else.
The good thing about Ryan Reynolds is that he does not. If I wanted to avoid him, I could probably avoid his films very easily.
He doesn't collaborate with anyone you like.
Anyone I like. He never makes movies I would want to see.
Yeah.
If you look at the last couple of years, he's in If, which, to be fair, I saw in the cinema because I wanted to see the sexy sunflower.
Yep.
Voiced by Academy Award winner Matt Damon. He shows up in everyone else's movies in cameos. So he was in Ghosted because he's in Chris Evans. He's in Bullet Train in a cameo. He's in Red Notice, obviously, with The Rock and Gal Gadot, a proper boy party, which we saw and is awful. Free Guy, Spirited.
He doesn't even do the rom-coms anymore.
No. Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard. The last decent thing he was in was not that long ago. It was Michael Bay's Six Underground, which was a Netflix film, which is okay.
But again, is ultimately a Netflix action.
He's in Hobbs and Shaw in a cameo. He plays Pikachu in Detective Pikachu. At least you don't have to see him in that one. Then the last real movie with no jokes he was in was Life, the Jake Gyllenhaal, Rebecca Ferguson space venom parasite movie, which I've never seen.
Huh.
He was in Mississippi Grind in 2015, which I must admit he's pretty good in, with Ben Mendelsohn, which is a gambling drama that he's quite good in. I don't he's not always terrible. The Voices, he's okay in that. He's in A Million Ways to Die in the Rest. He's in R.I.P.D., Turbo, Safe House. Yeah. The Change Up. We probably will end up talking about him again just because he's worked with a lot of other big names. But,
do you consider him a movie star?
I think he's one of the only movie stars.
You think so? Yeah.
He's not a real movie
Free
star.
Guy. Free Guy pulled well.
Free Guy was a big hit for COVID times.
I think that's kind of your own.
That's the criteria. He's a movie star. I think he is a draw. I think kids like him. I think teenagers like him. I think his shtick has evolved with the times to the extent that his brand of sort of gross out sexual crude humor is, even though we spent 10 minutes saying how it's kind of homophobic, it feels contemporary. And it is relevant to Gen Z. It's
not American Pie humor.
No.
It's kind of evolved beyond it.
Yeah, and he makes jokes in this movie about being
the woke mob.
Oh, I'm gender blind. It's a pronoun joke.
Don't cancel me.
Yeah,
I'm saying,
he's at least spends enough time on Twitter or his fucking buddies do, that he doesn't feel as insanely out of touch as he might, as some of his contemporaries might, you know?
Yeah, because some of them, I can't think of an example off the top of my head, but there are guys that are still doing humor from 2006. Like
Jack Black kind of is.
A little
like,
bit.
Yeah. Anyway, the more interesting person in this movie to talk about is Hugh Jackman, because this feels like a little bit of a cry for help. Now, this is a man who, in my review of The Greatest Showman in 2017, I wrote, this is very clearly the film made by a man who's just had his skin cancer removed, a closeted gay man who just had his skin cancer removed.
Mm-hmm.
I think Hugh Jackman, since he had his unfortunate skin cancer, which is thankfully recovered from, has not really been he's not really been punching as high as he used to, you know. And this is the man who was in, and I got an Oscar nomination for Les Mis 12 years ago, and he has not had a hit now in 7 years, which was a big year for him. 2017, he gets Logan and The Greatest Showman within 6 months, 2 huge movies. I remember the usual bullshit of give him an Oscar nomination for Logan. Yeah, not a fucking chance. He didn't get one. He didn't get one, thankfully. But like, he was riding high in 2017, really doing well. And you know, the biggest thing he's done in the last 5 years, as far as I'm concerned, is that he did an arena tour singing show tunes, which sold out around the world. Otherwise, not so good. He was in a movie in 2022 called The Son, from the director of The Father, which was roundly declared one of the worst films of that year.
Ugh.
In 2021, he was in Reminiscence, which was roundly declared one of the worst films of that year. Huge flop. A big, expensive Warner Brothers sci-fi thing that absolutely nobody went to see. He was in a HBO movie that people liked. I didn't like it, but it was called Bad Education with Alison Janney about a teaching scandal. It was a HBO movie. It was not released in cinemas. In 2018, he was in Jason Reitman's The Front Runner, which is a 70s political drama, which is fine. He's not very good in it. I think whenever he has to play a serious role, he doesn't do a very good job. The year before that is his big year, Logan and Greatest Showman. The year before that, he was in Eddie the Eagle. But then the year before that, he was in Chappie. He was in Joe Wright's Peter Pan movie as Blackbird, which nobody saw. He was in Prisoners. And then we're back into real, like, Les Mis Prisoners and whatever.
What's the robot fighting thing he's in?
Oh, well, Sean Levy's Real Steel. 2011. That's his previous Sean Levy collab. Yes. And he also has a cameo in Night Museum 3. He obviously befriends these guys and wants to work with them again and again, which is great. But if you look at his mid-2000s, where the man is working with Christopher Nolan, Baz Luhrmann, he's working with Woody Allen, he's doing an X-Men movie every year, and the sort of the midway point of his career is sort of 2011, 2012, where he gets that Oscar nomination. Because he only started acting in movies in 2000. X-Men is his second film. He is really on the downward swing now.
He is, but he is a name that I think people who don't engage with cinema all know.
And that
I think he is,
because of that, he has like infinite goodwill that he can cash in.
I think so.
Maybe. But where can he cash that in? Can he only cash that in by making new Wolverine movies or doing arena tours where he sings show tunes? Or like a TV show?
I don't know. I feel like, is he going to get to the territory where he's just going to start being the and in films?
Maybe.
He's going to appear
like
as
Eddie
the
Eagle.
He's going to appear as the teacher in Mean Girls the Musical too.
That's not a career.
No, it's not a career.
That's a disaster for someone like him.
Yeah.
I can't think of a comparison to him because he is kind of unusual in that he's like one of the Australian hunks, but he's not. But he has this weird kind of.
He's also a bit older.
He's older, but he's so different to Russell Crowe and the Hemsworths because he's like this kind of flamboyant musical theater guy. He's got a complete, and he's not
grumpy old guy, and he's not jokey young guy.
Yeah, young like home and away neighbors guy. Yeah. He's kind of more American than any of them. I feel like he doesn't really have an Australian personality.
Like he could do Fall Guy, I guess. I don't know. Is
he
too old?
I don't think he's too old. I think he's probably more age appropriate for the Fall Guy. But it is maybe depressing that he is going to have to start doing roles of characters who are described as I washed up this.
Yeah, he could be doing Brad Pitt roles.
He's 55. I feel like Brad Pitt just feels like a more current star than Hugh Jackman.
A little bit.
Possibly because he is of more interest in the public eye because of his weird dramatic life. But also because he won an Oscar 4 years ago and Hugh Jackman lost an Oscar 12 years ago and hasn't been in the conversation again since. Yeah. Like Brad Pitt has maintained a quality and people like Tarantino still working with him. People like fucking Kaczynski putting him in F1, whereas Hugh Jackman dropped out of Ferrari and Adam Driver took over. Like,
oh, weird.
To be competing with Adam Driver for roles instead of Brad Pitt is maybe not a great sign when you're like 20 years into a very successful movie star career. Because I feel like in 2006 he was the biggest star in the world for a brief moment.
Yeah,
there was a little window where The Prestige and X-Men 3 were out and Australia was coming out and all this kind of thing in 06, 07, where you could make a very convincing argument that he was slightly ahead of Will Smith and Tom Cruise as the biggest star.
Mm-hmm.
And by no real reason he has dropped off of that. Like he should be making, like, Greatest Showman is a
Do you think he is
massive film.
Good actor?
No, I don't think he's a good actor.
Okay, I think that's where he hits.
None of these guys are. Neither is Will Smith. And Hugh Jackman's he's a nice person. Like,
yeah.
Like, it's like being a nice person doesn't get you far if you're not interested.
That's the thing. He doesn't seem to be arrogant enough to try and lead his own career and explore his own projects.
Are Brad Pitt and Will Smith benefited by their own
just
Messiah complex?
I think so.
And Johnny Depp and Tom Cruise. Like, these are all guys who are so
determined to be the top guy. They're obsessed with the kind of idea of being the movie star. Like,
and maybe he's never allowed anyone to take a risk with him, like Jack Sparrow, or like, I don't know, Will Smith doesn't really have anything like this, but he's never. Yeah,
Hugh Jackman's not going to make an After Earth. Like,
no, like, he's not taking crazy risks. He's doing very calculated small risks. Yeah. And every time something doesn't work, back to X-Men, back to Wolverine. Oh, my safe space. And it just seems cowardly to me. And this film, I mean, it's embarrassing that he's in this. It's really like you did a very well liked Oscar nominated, got a screenplay nomination, Oscar nominated film where you said goodbye to this character. The only dignified death of an iconic genre character I can think of, apart from Craig in No Time to Die. And it's like, Daniel Craig is running laps around Hugh Jackman in terms of dignity and respect. Daniel Craig is going to be in a fucking Luca Guadagnino Burroughs adaptation gay film this year, and Hugh Jackman is over here standing beside Ryan Reynolds making dick and balls jokes. Like, there's no need for this, Hugh Jackman. You could be doing the Daniel Craig run. You have the popularity. The Greatest Showman is probably one of the most streamed films of the last decade, beloved by every girl. I'd say the soundtrack the age of 12 and 20.
One of the most streamed film soundtracks.
Just make another movie aimed at young women with people who were in that with you. Zendaya, Rebecca Ferguson, Zac Efron. Like, I don't understand the run of 5 years since then where all he's done is like weird dude movies like Reminiscence and The Front Runner. I don't know. I don't get it. I don't get it at all. But he's got nothing coming up except something called 3 Bags Full, a sheep detective movie.
Oh, Jesus Christ!
With Nicholas Braun, Galitzine, and Emma Thompson. And he's going to be...
Nicholas Braun is a man whose career is as dead as anyone's.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, if you're doing films with him.
And last year he did appear in an episode of Rick and Morty called How Poopy Got His Poop Back as himself bracket voice. And the year before he was at least in an episode of The Simpsons as janitor. So Hugh Jackman on top of the world. Folks.
You know what? The fact that you just mentioned he seemed to like voluntarily go on to an episode of Rick and Morty where I imagine the paycheck wasn't huge. I think that actually explains a lot.
Maybe. Maybe
he's just fond of this stupid stuff.
Do you want to get? How much do you think he'll get paid for he got paid for this film? A random website is telling me
$8 million.
A random website's telling me 20.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, I think it's 20.
Yeah.
I don't think
this film's not being made without him.
Yeah. No. Well, sorry. This film was being made without him.
Oh, was it?
That's the funny thing. This film.
They were making a Deadpool 3 anyway.
Deadpool 3, and I think it was great. I think putting him in this film gets your box office up significantly.
I think it adds
I think it adds 200 million.
I think so.
So I think his bargaining power in that regard, if you point at how much Logan made, which was marketed as a drama, literally, you say Logan made fucking, I don't know what Logan made, but it probably made between 400 and 700. It could have honestly done 700. I don't remember. I should have those numbers because the box office is part of this show. But I feel like he could go into that room and say, honestly, give me everything you have. And Disney would be like, look, Marvel's got nothing going on. The other thing we haven't mentioned about this film is that like this is the only thing they had this summer to put out. And as a result, they like desperately needed it to be a hit.
This was on Every bus in Dublin.
Yeah. And like it was really like this was a rush job. They got it back into production after the writers and actors strikes. They needed this to come out. If they didn't have this out, Disney were going to have nothing this summer except Inside Out and Apes, which to be fair have both done really, really well. So I'm trying to get the box office up. So Logan made 614 million worldwide, which is really impressive for a movie that does not have the superhero's name in the title, and is also was marketed as like a serious drama for grown-ups. Like it was rated R. So do you want to guess who has the higher box office, Ryan Reynolds or Hugh Jackman?
I'm going to say Hugh Jackman. It seems like he's been in a little bit. No, well,
he's in like every X-Men film.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm relying on. He's in more of that stuff. And Ryan Reynolds doesn't seem to have much of a.
Ryan Reynolds has done a lot of streaming in the last couple of years, is the thing.
But that doesn't add into the box office.
No.
Okay, I'm going to go Ryan Reynolds is in the 3 billion range. Hugh Jackman's in this 5 to 6 billion range.
Ryan Reynolds movies have made $6.6 billion.
Okay.
And Hugh Jackman's films have made $7.8 billion.
Yeah, okay.
Hugh Jackman is in the Happy Feet films.
He is.
Les Mis was a huge hit.
Why wasn't Hugh Jackman in Mad Max? Like, I don't know.
Yes, I know. But is he too boring? I don't know if he can do something that freaky. But I didn't think Hemsworth could either.
Yeah.
And then Ryan Reynolds is in The Croods. So you're getting instant animation boost there.
Who else is getting a boost by The Croods that we...
Nicolas Cage.
Yeah, that was it.
His biggest film, The Croods. Yeah.
The Croods, yeah.
So no box office for this film, which is good because we're hitting 40 minutes and I don't want to talk about this any longer. We'll do a quick round of the credits game, unless you have anything else to say about this.
No, like, is there any dispute about the billing in this film? I guess it has to be Ryan Reynolds first.
It kind of has to be Ryan Reynolds first. It's similar to Captain America Civil War, very similar, where it is Chris Evans is billed above Robert Downey Jr. Because it's his movie. IP, you everyone in agreement there. Robert Downey Jr. is obviously the bigger star, but in the case of Reynolds and Jackman, I would say that in 2024, maybe Ryan Reynolds is the bigger star. I guess what's interesting to me about this movie is that there is no attempt to even split the billing. It is very just Ryan Reynolds, Hugh Jackman. Yeah. There's no like Ryan Jackman, Hugh Reynolds. Yeah. Like, the poster, there's not really one poster for this movie that they've used. The main one is the two of them like fucking trying to fight each other with the white background, which is the one I'm using for this album artwork. There's also weird posters for this that are more abstract. There's one of like a little heart medallion that's split down the middle that they've used a lot that says come together, which is hilarious because it's about coming. And then there's one that's like, it's like Wolverine's like...
they're holding hands in one poster.
And Deadpool's like little pinky is touching it, which is a reference to the Logan poster, which was a reference to the Schindler's List poster. We're literally getting into so many layers of stupid bullshit here.
Fucking Deadpool poster referencing Schindler's List.
Yeah,
Jesus
indirectly
Christ.
is referencing Schindler's List, exactly.
Oof.
So I'm going to do the credits game. This is the game where I'm going to read out the cast list of a film starring one of the guys from this movie. I'm going to read it from bottom to top. I'm going to see if Shane is able to figure out the film. And I am going to do it according to Letterboxd. And will I give you the year, or do you want to have some fun with it?
Look, you always give me the year. I don't see why I'd change that now.
True. 2012.
2012.
That could be either.
Yeah, like these guys only started acting in 2003. Like,
so. All right, let's go. Alan Irwin, Brian Van Niekerk, Pope Jared, Trajan Milanov Troy, Sebastian Roche, Sherry Stone, Stephen Bishop, Sarah Arrington, Daniel Fox, Joel Kinnaman.
Oh, Joel Kinnaman.
I keep going?
That's the first name I recognize.
Yeah. Liam Cunningham, my friend.
Liam Cunningham.
Big L.
I find it very hard to believe that Liam Cunningham is in a film with Ryan Reynolds.
Maybe he's not. Maybe he is. I don't know.
Maybe he is. Maybe he's not. Come on, keep going.
Robert Patrick, Nora Arnazeder, Ruben Blades, Sam Shepard, Brendan Gleeson.
Okay. We'll hold it there.
What are you talking about? I'm in the movie.
Is that your Liam or Brendan?
No, that's my Brendan Gleeson.
That's your Brendan.
I can't really do a Liam, which is funny because I've spent way more time around him than Brendan Gleeson. But Brendan Gleeson's in the new trailer for Joker. I don't know if you saw it.
Oh.
He says, "Joker, why are you sort of an evil person?"
Sort of an evil person.
There's 3 names left.
Go on, yeah.
Vera Farmiga, Ryan Reynolds, and there's 1 name left. This movie has a bigger star than Ryan Reynolds in it.
Yeah,
this is a good boy party movie. We'll do this someday when we run out.
Male or a female star?
When you're 90. When you're 90.
When I'm 90.
That's a joke from the Deadpool and Wolverine.
Right.
It is a male movie star. It is one of the 3 biggest movie stars currently living, I would argue. One of the default guys.
Is
been done
this
on this podcast.
Denzel? Is this the Hitman? No, it's No. It's in South Africa for some reason.
It's in South Africa, yeah.
Yeah, fuck.
The movie is Daniel Espinosa's Safe House.
Safe House, yeah.
Which features in its trailer No Church in the Wild.
Really?
And somebody made a letterbox list called Denzel fucks around with a white boy while No Church in the Wild plays. And it was this and Gladiator. Gladiator 2. That's it. That's our episode. 45 minutes. It's 11:30 p.m. I'm fucking exhausted. I hit my head today. Have I mentioned I hit my head today?
He hit his head
I
today.
hit my head today.
We were not going to go see Deadpool and Wolverine until he hit his head.
And then I was like, Shane, this is amazing.
I have an urge
to go see new movie. It's called Deadpool and Wolverine. This episode had better get us some new listeners.
Yeah.
Thank you for tuning in. Thank you so much. This is Boy Party. Every week we talk about movies starring 2 major movie stars. And next week we'll be discussing a to-be-confirmed classic romantic comedy.
With special guest Michael Stuhlbarg.
Yeah. In your dreams.
In my dreams.
We will be doing more comic book nonsense for you silly babies later in the year.
We've got a season coming.
We've got a season coming ahead of the release of Joker, Folie à Deux, starring Brendan Gleeson. We will be doing Joker Month. We'll be doing 3 classic films featuring the character the Joker, Batman, Tim Burton's Batman, The Dark Knight, Suicide Squad, and then we'll be finishing with Joker, Folie à Deux, with Joaquin Phoenix and Lady Gaga. So if you fools only want to hear about superhero movies, you have all that to look forward to.
Yeah, we've definitely
bump up the numbers.
Built a good relationship with the
superhero community,
the comic book crowd.
They really liked our episode about
calling them nerds the entire time.
Exactly. So thanks for tuning in. Get home safe, and don't let Deadpool touch you or be in the same room as you because he's a dangerous.
Or do because you might like it.
Yeah. Okay, bye bye.